I'm on the red dot. I've been cured. Born again. I know you've heard this rap before. I mean it. This is the truth. I changed. I changed. Completely rehabilitated, reinvigorated, and reassimilated. I stand before you as a child of privilege. A Muslim-born child of Asian immigrants who, thanks to the British public school system, enjoyed a life his ancestors could only dream about. Yes, yes. Without a private education, I might never have had the opportunity to become an alcoholic. And that too at the age of 11. I might never have graduated from alcohol to cannabis, from cannabis to crack, from crack to crystal meth. I might never have experimented with petty crime. I might never have suffered with a condition called IGS, Imaginary Gangster Syndrome. I might never have harbored delusions of becoming Tony Montana, but most crucially, perhaps most crucially, a future member of the British ruling class might not have sexually assaulted me time after time after time. The first genuinely abusive relationship of my life began when I started supporting Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The second was when I was forced, at the age of 11, to go to boarding school, PPS school. PPS school was a living hell. It was a battery farm of child abuse where cruelty wasn't just a byproduct of the way the school was run, it was the way the school was run. I was abused daily, whether it be physically, racially, emotionally, sexually, every day for 6 years of my life from the age of 11. The violence never stopped. Sometimes it was premeditated, and sometimes it was spontaneous. And then there was the rugby, which was a mixture of both. Dead legs, daily, wedgies. Do you know what wedgies are? When they pull you up in your pants so high up that it hurts so much. And I was hung from 10 foot, 15 feet high. Baseball bats smacked across our knees because the dormitory wasn't clean. Punches that would wind us so much that we couldn't even breathe. Volunteering for the Army Corps tour was compulsory. And during a rugby game, British soldiers would shout, "Get the brown bastard!" And I didn't even have the ball. I was made to do push-ups in dog mess with my face pushed into the excrement, while my peers laughing and kicking me in my stomach simultaneously. I was a kid. I felt alone. I felt humiliated. And all I could think about was, where's my mum? However, the last night of the tour was probably the worst night of my life that I can ever remember, and I'll never forget it. To start with, we began to celebrate what we thought was the last night of the trip by drinking copious amounts of alcohol, peach schnapps, sambuca, tequila. I vomited and then went to bed. Four seniors came into our room and immediately began to assault us. I stayed in bed and I pretended that I was asleep. Lance Corporal came towards my bed and stripped me and started to penetrate me with an object. I froze. I was holding the mattress on both sides so hard that my fingernails were digging in. I didn't know what to do. The pain was so excruciating. I couldn't even scream for help. I felt worthless, violated, sick. A young lad across the room was getting the same treatment, and I could see blood. This fateful night, ladies and gentlemen, taught me the worst possible lesson. That I was not accepted in the outside. And that would be a big impact in my life, not just in the world, but in my head and in my heart. My inside world was cloaked into darkness. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel so powerless, where you can't do anything? You can't change the situation, no matter what it is. You can't escape. And if you have, you will know how soul-destroying it is. I'll never forget that night. Once that night finished, as I said, I never spoke about that night for 25 years. For 25 years, I kept that inside me, purely because of the humiliation, the guilt, the shame, the utter terror. I couldn't talk about it. And to be fair, I couldn't talk about any of the sexual assaults that I encountered at school. The amount of times that I was stripped, the amount of times that I was beaten with soap bars wrapped in towels, snakes, grass snakes and slow worms put on my body, my naked body, while everyone's laughing. I'm held back, I can't move, I'm trying to no avail, hoping that they would stop. But they never stopped. So I just kept my mouth shut. Because you see, in the 80s, there was this massive code of silence. You don't say nothing, and you don't do anything. You just keep your mouth shut. And that's what I did. And my strategy was alcohol. For me, it saved the day. Don't forget, I'm a child here. It got me through the week I endured the abuse, and it got me ready for the inevitable abuse that I was going to endure the following week. And one time I drank so much after a night of torture that I was admitted into Aldershot Hospital and put into an induced coma, 12 years old. And I had my stomach pumped. And I'm lying there in that bed, not even knowing if I'll see another day. Well, hoping that I wouldn't see another day at school at least. But I did. And I survived. It's not easy to escape somewhere like PPS, but you can. And I spent the next couple of years trying to put the high into higher education, dropping out of 2 universities. I have no idea what I was studying, but I definitely majored in substance abuse. And it was around this time when I was told that I was adopted at birth. After all the rejection and all the stuff that I went through my teenage years, bang. It felt like my 18 years of my life was a lie. And I dealt with it with the only way I knew how. Alcohol. And by now I developed a crack cocaine habit. I did try to go cold turkey, but my body started to convulse as the alcohol and the crack left the system. I started having these weird delusions and hallucinations of insects, and my body used to go into shakes. I was in withdrawals. The torment from the outside was destroying my inside. I started drinking and smoking crack again. It was around this time that I met up with a childhood friend, Biggie. Biggie was involved in some unsavory stuff. He was a gangster. But I liked this. For the first time in my life, I had some power. We'd walk the streets of London like the Cray twins. Well, more like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. But I liked this lifestyle. It turned me on. For the first time in my life, I had a sense of power. By the time I got to my 40s, the immune system that I had been testing from the age of 11 could no longer cope. I had 3 overdoses. The first one I collapsed in a petrol station. I was flatlined for 5 minutes. But I still didn't think I had a problem. My mother, one of the last things my mother said to me when she was terminally ill, she said, "Son, you look like a drug addict." This comment destroyed me. It was around this time where I developed a tumour in the back of my head, which had surgery on immediately. But that comment destroyed me more than the surgery. And I dealt with it with the only way I knew how, by already increasing my prodigious intake. This lifestyle that I had, this IGS lifestyle that I had, I took with me into my married life. By 2003, I had 2 children. Still didn't stop. I still didn't stop. And the 5 years after my father passed away was probably the worst of my life. I was hooked and possessed on the filthiest drug known to man. Crystal meth. Crystal meth. It destroyed me. It was so powerful. It made me feel indestructible. Powerful beyond words. Now, alcohol and drugs, whatever you do, it makes you do things out of character, but crystal meth took it to another level. I staged a break-in in my own house and sold my wife's jewelry just to fund my habit and to pay off a debt. Still didn't stop. I was so self-centered and so desperate that I didn't even realize that seeing our house ransacked would affect my family in such a way. But I didn't think I had a problem. Nor did I think I had a problem when I got arrested again after a few years around my wife. Still continued what I was doing. Only after getting arrested again and fired from another job from a business trip in Berlin after a massive coke binge, my daughter put me into a rehab facility. And when I was there, something happened. They say you have to hit rock bottom to value your existence. That's not my story. I was just done. I had many rock bottoms. After 33 years, I was done. And it's 8 years to this very day that something miraculous happened. I discovered inside-out acceptance. I'm sitting there in the treatment room, thinking to myself, man, I've been living life from the outside in. My value of self-worth and the ability to accept myself was how much other people accepted me from the outside. Think about it. I lived a life of acceptance from the outside, which determined how I lived from the inside. That's crazy. Not sustainable. Take that from someone with mental health issues. So I started thinking, what if we can live life from the inside out? To have this sense of inner value that no matter, it doesn't falter for 1 minute, whatever's happening outside, whether it's external rejection, external situations, external anything. I want you to imagine that's a face that tells a million stories. I want you to imagine carrying a backpack, and you may be able to relate to this, a heavy backpack with regrets, with guilt, with shame, with grief, with unresolved emotions, and you're carrying this backpack. And it's so heavy that every step you take, the weight is burdening, and you can't move forward. You can't go forward. So what do? There's 3 steps. Number 1, unpack that backpack. Number 2, examine the contents in that backpack. And number 3, choose to set down what no longer serves you. And I had to do all three of these. When you can have a sense of inner health, of inner well-being, of intrinsic love for yourself, nothing happens, nothing matters. And that's what I did. We've got to stop playing the victim. I had to intrinsically accept my adoption, intrinsically accept my trauma, my abuse, my mental health, my physical health, all the destruction and all the chaos that I caused and the hurt that I caused my family. And only then I got serenity, and only then I got peace. For every scar, a lesson's been learned. In every tear, a courage earned. But in the surrender, there's a wild peace, a wild flower, a sweet release. To forgive the self, to let it be, to understand with clarity, the heart once burdened, now is free. In the mirror's gaze, we finally see inside out acceptance has set us free. Thank you.